Hi, I'm Matt,
I'm Scott.
and we are trending towards viral. All right, we are back with another trending towards viral topic. This episode, we are talking about Super Bowl predictions, Niners versus Chiefs. Um, Scott and I both being lifelong Niners fans, obviously we have an inherent bias, but as also lifelong football fans, I think we can take an objective look at this game. Um, Obviously, we both want the Niners to win, but Scott, what do you see as far as game breakdown, sort of strengths and weaknesses versus weaknesses?
Well, I'm going to put the over/under on three holding penalties called on the offense of whoever is guarding Bosa. I think the 49ers campaign to highlight the fact that he's held every single play is going to gain some steam,
Hmm?
and that's going to be a viral moment in the game and therefore after.
What's the over under on the amount of holding penalties not called?
Oh, geez. 55, a little bit on both teams, sprinkled out 60-40.
I once heard John Madden say that holding occurs on almost every single play, just decides whether the ref sees it and decides to throw a flag. And
Sounds about right.
that Niners defensive line is so good, and they have been for the last few seasons. That I would imagine that at least three out of the four are getting held probably on every play. Uh, Now, one of the big criticisms about the Niners defense, as good as it is they tend to struggle versus highly mobile quarterbacks. I mean, uh,
Yeah, I don't know if I don't agree with that. I think that's where their soft coverage comes from. It's
right?
how they started off the last game against Goff. They
Mm-hmm.
started off really soft against him, but that type of defensive response is really they've employed that mostly with the mobile quarterbacks where you don't see as much pressure by
Mm-hmm.
the front four. Instead, they're just sort of holding and staying in their lanes. I could see that happening again. I could see Mahomes running for 50 yards, but also being stopped on the majority of plays because that soft upfront coverage.
I mean, a lot of teams have figured out how to use that intense Niners pass rush against them. A lot of teams will run a lot of outside screens, slip screens with like a tight end or a running back. Uh, let that rush come upfield and then throw the ball just overhead. And then now there's three offensive linemen out in front of a tight end, a running back, receiver. Uh, that Baltimore game, they didn't do a great job of containing Lamar Jackson, and he ran all over the place. Um, I mean, that was just an ugly game all around, anyway. Um, but I do think you're right in as much as if they, because one of the adjustments that they've made against those mobile quarterbacks is sort of slowing down that rush, playing a little bit more contained rather than all that rush, and then letting that amazing linebacker core go out and make tackles. Um, what do you think about? Let's look at the other side of the ball. The Chiefs secondary holding up against that All Pro skills group of the Niners.
I think that they're going to carve them up. I really do. I think Purdy's going to pass for over 400 yards.
Let's be honest. Yak Bros are going to yak. It's going to be.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a lot of get the ball to Ayuk, Kittle, and Samuel in that middle third of the field, and just let them make plays. One of the things that I've noticed on some of those really big explosive plays is how these receivers block for each other downfield. I mean,
yeah.
and it's not just pass plays; it's run plays. I mean that one that McCaffrey tore off for what, close to 70 yards. Uh, was it when they played the Rams, or I forget which week that was. But you got Ayuk hustling downfield 50, 60 yards to spring McCaffrey almost for a touchdown. And that's
Mhm.
happened all season long. I mean, the way that these guys play together as a cohesive unit, not a lot of teams do it or at least do it as well as I think the Niners do. I mean, it's an offense that really works well as a single cohesive team rather than individual players trying to go out and make plays.
Yeah, agreed. They're blocking for each other, and that's ingredients for a real special team and a special run. I'm gonna call this at 32-23. That is my game prediction. 49ers win.
So Niners by 9. I
Yep.
don't know what is the spread on the game. Do you know?
1.5, I believe. 49ers is favorites.
I mean, I don't disagree with that in as much as based on their two playoff games that were uncomfortably close. I mean, my heart rate's just now starting to come back down a little bit. Um, it was those two just last minute. They pulled it out and ended up getting a 3 point victory. Um, that was not fun to watch at all.
And honestly, we could see a repeat of the Detroit Lions game where the Chiefs come out in the first half, they score a bunch of points, and then they go flat in the second half. I don't remember how many games it's been since they've gotten a second half point,
Mm-hmm.
but they've been pretty flat in the second half of games. So I expect that could definitely be a pattern that's followed into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and a frequent observation I've heard the last 2 or 3 years about the Chiefs is they're not that juggernaut team that's going to win 15 games in a season anymore. That being said, uh, Patrick Mahomes always seems to find a way to win during the playoffs. I mean, the guy, even if he has a mediocre regular season, gets to the postseason and suddenly he's a Madden creative player. He's just got 99 stats across the board. I remember when they lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Was it 2 years ago? People said, "Oh, the Bucks blew out the Chiefs," and it's like, well, I heard a lot of people say that uh, that game would have been just a massacre had it not been for Patrick Mahomes doing what he could with that offense. It just didn't seem to click that game, and yet he was still out there, making plays. They didn't put enough points on the board, um, but he still turned it up a notch. So that's one of the things that worries me going into this game is that guy is so good during the playoffs. And again, I mean, you talked at one point in a previous episode about Travis Kelsey being a first ballot Hall of Fame player. I think Patrick Mahomes is at some point too.
Yeah, likely. But I also see Kelsey getting shut down somewhat by Greenlaw. I'd love to see Steve Wilkes just tag Kelsey with Greenlaw and have him shadow him all day and just knock him the fuck out.
Greenlaw and Warner are two of the best cover linebackers in all the league. And one of the things that sets them apart from other linebacking cores is how fast they are. Everybody
Yeah.
talks about Fred Warner's closing speed, how he shuts down the run, how he can drop back in coverage. Um, I think that the secondary of the Niners is a little concerning because they've been beat up. I know Gibson has been sort of on and off with a quad injury. They lost Hufunga earlier in the season, which sucks because boy, that guy's good. Also, I just love saying, Talanoa Hufunga. Um, it's just, I love hearing it. I love saying it. Also, a guy trained by Troy Polamalu, who, let's be real, was a sledgehammer in the Steelers secondary. Um, Guy looks like him, plays like him. That was a big loss when he went down with ACL tear. Uh, Charvarius Ward has been the closest thing they've had to a shutdown corner in a long time. I mean, it's no
Lenore's
surprise
been
that
pretty
that
good too.
guy is an All Pro this year. Um,
Yeah, Lenore's been good, and I think Avery Thomas, he had that month off after he had surgery, and so he got lit up um, in the playoffs, but I still believe he's a really sticky cornerback. I
yeah,
think that he's going to come back for sure. I'd say the weakest link in the secondary is Oliver. and Ryan, which I'm thankful for both of them because they're both experienced backs, but they're also about 3 or 4 steps slower than anybody they cover. So those are the two that I'm really concerned about.
Yeah,
And
it's gonna
no,
take.
hats off to both those guys. Both of those in their younger years,
Yeah,
both great players. They're just getting a little older. I'd like to see them both win a Super Bowl. I, who I'd really like to see win a Super Bowl is Trent Williams.
yeah, agreed. Uh, it did sort of warm my heart to see that he signed to come back for. I know it's at least one more year. Wasn't it like a 3 year deal? I don't have the thing in front of me, but I think he's going to be back for a few more seasons. But same thing. As good as that guy is, and as crazy talented an athlete as that guy is, uh, he's also nearing sort of the end of his career. Um, it's just one of those things where eventually your body just can't take it anymore. Uh, but he seems like a pretty good guy both on and off the field. Um, so it'd be awesome to see him get a ring.